Hey everybody, we're back. Sorry, not sorry. It's just been a lot going on lately for me the past 3 to 4 months, so the videos are coming out a little slower than I'd like. But nonetheless, we are here today to talk about a game called Atlas Fallen. It is an action adventure, third person RPG that came out back in August. I think it was August 10th, and it's developed by Deck 13. And we're gonna give my opinion and a little video review of the game. So hold on tight. It might be a little bumpy or not. So essentially, we're gonna go through the same pros and cons or same flow like we've been doing the past few videos with the pros and cons. I feel like it does give like a nice touch on why I'm feeling the way I am. It helps it bring a little bit of clarity. So anyway, we're gonna start with the pros like normal. So the first pro I'd like to point out in this game is the combat and the gameplay. So the game actually has pretty free flowing combat. You can string together some nice moves when you're attacking. You have like a heavy and light attack. You have three different weapons. I hope that's not a spoiler. You get those pretty early on. You have three different weapons you can use, and you can mix and match those. Like have a primary and a secondary while doing combos. You also have, and I'll get to this a little bit later on in another pro. You also have a lot of things you can play with to help like set out your like kit to help you pull off some nice moves. So I feel like the combat itself is a strong point in this game, which is very important in an action adventure game. I mean, if you have like really poor combat, then you're really going to have to lean on your story and such. So this game does a good job at giving you a lot of options here. And I will say that, yeah, you could button mash if you want. I played the game on the hardest difficulty and I also tried it on the easiest difficulty to see the difference. And from what I noticed, it was mostly the enemies are a lot more like tankier. They just absorb damage and they dish out more damage, the usual stuff, right? But the game is still not super easy on easy, so it's an interesting choice. You can definitely like just run through and smash smash smash, but you still need to be a little careful when you get to some of the more elite enemy types. So I would like to say the combat itself in this game is pretty dang good for what it is. And then we're going to move on to the next pro, which is the world itself. So Atlas Fallen, you're in a lot of like I don't want to talk about why you're where you're at because it does a good job in the game explaining it, but essentially you're in like barren wastelands a lot of time. So you're surfing on sand. You are climbing up like large structures like mountains, dunes, etc. And the world itself is pretty cool. It's designed decently well. It's fairly unique. It makes sense for what they're doing with the story. So I would say the world itself is a nice pro. Some you do kind of like have a little bit of variety, even though it's a lot of barren wastelands. You go underground. You're going inside of like chapels. You have small towns you go to, etc. So I think the world itself is something worth highlighting. The enemy design, I probably should have gotten to this second after the combat, but the enemy design is also something worth mentioning. There are some largely scaled enemies, and the way they have their armor and how you defeat them is pretty intuitive. Um, it can be a little like not a lot of variety at first because you're dealing with the same few enemies, but when you get towards like the middle and late part of the game, you start to have a lot of these enemies attacking you all at once, so it feels nice. Not gonna lie though, there are some really frustrating enemies. Just like any type of action adventure game, birds or any aerial type of enemy sucks to deal with. And thankfully in this game you can like do combos in the air and stuff, but still it can be pretty annoying dealing with some of the aerial enemies. So I just wanted to mention that the enemy design is a highlight as well. And then, going back to the first point where I mentioned I would talk about this later, there are a lot of RPG elements in here to like. You're collecting when you defeat enemies, you're collecting essence dust. Also, when you defeat larger enemies, you get like a core, which is used for upgrading your stones, which are kind of like mods for your weapons. So not for your weapons, just for you. For you, you have like slots you can put these in, and you can upgrade them later. And I will say this, It kind of surprised me. There's also like a lot of different armors you can put on throughout the game. There's not really any weapons besides the three you get. That's kind of a little like it would have been nice to see like picking up a different kind of like glaive or a different kind of axe or whatever the chain whip thing is. Like having it like another one of those, kind of like in any of these games where it like boosts its stats. But that's why the armor upgrading is important, and also the essence stones that you get, as well as the just perks and stuff. You have perks. There's a lot of RPG elements in here. It's not really leveling. Your level is based on your gear, but still, and also the stats you get from upgrading your gear like affects your like characters, like general stats. So you're really pouring all your resources. You have two currencies: your typical like money, they're called tributes, and then you have your essence dust. So which is like what you get for killing. We'll say souls, like in the Dark Souls game. Not to compare the two in any way except for that, but that's really kind of what it is. So I really was surprised with the depth of, considering this is not a super long game. It's not short by any means, but there is a lot of stuff here to like a lot of stuff to toy with when you want to mod your. They even have presets. So like if you, I think it's three you can do if you want to like toy around with different like again kits. So very very cool to have that, which is useful in this game because later on there are some pretty lengthy encounters that you kind of can see the difference based on what your kit is if you use the right upgrades. Now we're going to move into the cons of this game. And unfortunately, I mean, I love gameplay, I love combat, I'm also a sucker for a really good story, and this game just doesn't have a lot going for it story-wise. It's a very generic, you know, nothing surprised me at all in this game, and I will say I was disappointed with the story because the world is pretty cool. And like the whole idea that you have this gauntlet that's speaking to you, and you find out its purpose and all that, and you're not really surprised by it. I just was a little disappointed, and the way the game ended, there was no payoff for me. I like payoffs, and especially when you play a game for 15 to 20 hours, which I played this game probably 20-ish hours because I tried to do everything, and I will finish cleaning up some like trophies and stuff because I like doing that. But yeah, the story was a disappointment, and that goes to the next thing, which is the quest. The quests in this game are, uh, a lot of games you have like the main story, and then you have side quests, and the main story kind of can shine on its own as well as so you have some side quests that are just really good. This game ain't got either really. The quests in this game are really bad. I hate to say it, like there are a couple that are okay, and it's like all right, nice, but a lot of it's just really boring, like kind of errand type quest, and to me that bugged me. I really wish that they had something more going on because the gameplay loop in this is essentially just beating everything up, knocking down some shrines, typical in like a sandboxy world game. Like you're doing similar things like knocking down like structures to get like it's just essentially collectibles too. They have a lot of collectibles in this game. The good thing is a lot of the loot you pick up off the ground, you think it's a collectible at first because when you go and look at it in the menu, you're like, "Oh, I got so many of these to collect." But really, they're just artifacts you're picking up that you can sell. They don't serve any purpose in this game besides selling. That's another low point. A little bit is the loot itself. It's very like it doesn't stand out. Like again, it's just collecting artifacts to sell. Now, again, mentioning the earlier in the pros with the kitting of the we'll say mods, there are a lot of those, and I think they're pretty cool, but that's really the only cool thing you find. There are some like crafting materials too, and those crafting materials are only used for crafting the mods and upgrading. So like it's not really like you're truly crafting anything, like you go to a crafting table or whatever. No, you're just using these to upgrade your character. So it's not really like true crafting or whatever. It's just picking up these items, and you can buy a lot of these late game too. And that's the thing. The pacing in this game is strange. The early game is like fine, I guess. The middle game kind of to me wasn't as nice, but towards the ends where the pacing really picked up, and so it was a little like disjointed. So, and the last thing I want to talk about is the voice acting. The voice acting in this game, it goes along with the story and along with the side quest. The voice acting in the game is not great. It's not bad by any means, but it's just not great. So I I hate to say it, like you just don't really care too much about what's going on. You want to because the game, like the world design's so cool, but the actual, you know, story itself is just derivative. And the gameplay, like I said, the loop can get repetitive, so I wouldn't sit here and play this game for like 8 to 9 hours straight because you will probably get fatigued. So, all in all, Atlas Fallen, not a horrible game. I played it on the PS5. I kind of like had my like ups and downs with it. Like starting out, I was like, this game is actually pretty solid. And then once I started getting a little fatigued with what's going on with the quest, I'm like, this is not really that good. And then the ending, when it opened up more, a whole lot better. So I will have to say Atlas Fallen. I'm going to give it a 7. Um, it didn't surprise me, but it did kind of it did and didn't. The surprising things were like good and bad. The good surprises with the combat and the world itself. The bad surprises was how bad the story was. So that's pretty much it for Atlas Fallen. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And again, not a bad game, really. Action RPG, unique world, fun combat. If you want that, give Atlas Fallen a try. I definitely am glad I played it. I was not like I didn't have a horrible time, clearly. So thanks for watching. Watch again. I hope. Like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. Good job, Deck 13, though. This is a good job. I think it's definitely something that I would like to see more of, like an add-on or something. Just next time, make your quest more meaningful.